How do people who get off GLP-1s like Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy, semaglutide, when they get off the medication, how do they regain the weight? We have two separate studies, one on Wegovy and one on Mounjaro, which is tirzepatide, and one is on semaglutide, that shows that when you get off the medication, the majority of people start to regain the weight afterwards. The question is, why do they regain the weight? Obviously, they're eating more, but why is it that they're unable to not eat enough that they won't regain the weight? So I'm going to tell you in a non-academic way, because I don't have a study to prove this. I'm doing this based off my observations with our patients in our weight loss clinic. We've stopped their medication and seeing what behaviors happen that cause the weight regain. And this might get insight for you if you've recently been on a diet and find yourself gaining weight back, saying, well, what am I doing wrong? Well, the first thing I have to mention is that in our weight loss program, we have an app where people take pictures of their food and they also sometimes count their calories. And we also record their weights. So a portion of our patients who are consistent with it, we can see how their food is correlating with their weight gain changes, correlating with their efforts, and then we can kind of map it out and see what kind of behavior changes that we see. And the first thing we see is they're all trying really, really hard, 90% of the time. Meaning that if I follow them for 10 days, for 9 of those 10 days, they actually tried really, really, really hard to maintain their weight, and everything was great and their weight usually maintained. But around day 10 or day 11, they might have one day where they have a birthday party, they go out with friends, and they eat a little bit more than usual, the weight bumps up the following day. So what we found was the weight increase was not linear, but instead it was kind of like steps. They would be fine for about 10 days, and then on the 11th day, they might gain a pound if they ate out, they had an emotional day, they had something tempting at home, or they had some kind of birthday party or some kind of event. That new weight that they had gained kind of stayed with them, and they cannot increase the effort the following day because they were already kind of at maximum effort anyway. Let me put it this way. I have a person who's 150 pounds, and they want to stay at 150 pounds, and they are on point with their diet, their exercise, everything is really on point. But on day 20, they go to a birthday party and they eat enough calories that they gain about half a pound, or let's say a pound. They're 151 now. The following day, they go back on their diet, but they were already at maximum effort the day before the birthday party. So they stay at this 151 now. Now they're just maintaining 151 until the next bad day happens. And these bad days, which are like 10% of their time, add up to the point where they start to regain the weight back. So if I have a person who's 150 and at the end of 4 months, they're 160, so they gain 10 pounds in 4 months, if you actually look at the days in detail, you'll find that they gained those 10 pounds over 20 days in 4 months. So the whole 4 months they were dieting well, but 20 days of that 4 months was enough to bump up the weight without them being able to drop it again. Now you could tell them just work harder the following day, but the issue is that they've already been working at 100%, 90% of the time. So you can't just tell them to work harder. They're already kind of at maximum capacity. They can't just stop eating indefinitely. And now that's just the behavioral change. That's not also taking into account metabolic adaptation and lower metabolism that occurs following weight loss. So what we found was the medication works like a glass ceiling. Essentially, a person's losing weight while they're on the medication, but let's say they have one of those 10% bad days. Well, they don't regain weight on those days because the medication blocked them from being able to overeat. Then they go back on their efforts. So essentially they get these 90% returns without this 10% increase that occurs that tries to bring the weight back up. It's kind of like the stock market. Without the medication, if you're doing well on stocks, you can always just have a bad day and the stock market crashes on you. But when you're on the medication, it's like you can only have good days or normal days, but you can't have bad days, in which case you know you're going to be rich. Okay, so some practical advice. What can you do about this now that I kind of mentioned this observation? It kind of shows how important exercise is because exercise might create a little bit of that glass ceiling. We know people who exercise maintain their weight better, and people who exercise are more successful in their weight loss journey overall, and it's better for you. The next thing is you have to remove temptation. You have to assume that I cannot be on my best behavior 100% of the time, and when I am not on my best behavior, I should not have access to a box of Haagen-Dazs ice cream in the fridge or Oreos at home. Simply said, those foods can just not be available at home. You have to allow for laziness, where if you want ice cream, you have to get in the car and drive and get it to overcompensate so you don't get too lazy to overeat. The next thing is a tactic that we use called diet sprints and diet breaks, which correlate with you planning ahead. Essentially, if you know you're going to go on vacation to Las Vegas and you're going to go to buffets in 2 weeks, you kind of have to do a more extreme diet in the 2 weeks prior to that and more extreme diet afterwards. Like almost like intermittent fasting, 1 meal a day, something like that, in order to compensate for that. And you can't let yourself go loose completely. You have to still kind of try to eat what you enjoy in moderation while you're cheating. In terms of getting off the medication, we typically don't recommend anyone get off the medication during the holidays or during times where this 10% will increase in terms of family visiting and the routines kind of being disrupted. So my question is, if you stopped the medication, you regained weight, is that what you noticed? You noticed you had like 1 or 2 bad days that caused a disproportional amount of your weight gain, and then you're not able to get that weight back down, meaning that the weight wasn't linear, but more like a step-like fashion in how you regained it. So let me know if you had the same observation. Hope that helps. Thanks.